Good morning, pre-algebra, 7th grade. Let us begin. En nombre del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo. Amén. Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en la tentación y líbranos del mal. Amén. En nombre del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo. Amen. I hope everyone had a great weekend and a great Mother's Day weekend with your moms. We're going to be starting our review now of what we've done the entire year. So your notebooks are going to be of the utmost importance. You need to have them, you need to open them, you need to review a lot of stuff we're going to go through. So my idea here is going to give you some examples of where I think you're going to need a little bit of review and a little bit of time to check your notebook on what this is, what some of these problems are. All right, some examples we have. One is going to be a substitution. It's going to say evaluate, and I'll give you an example. When it says evaluate, all you're doing is substituting. So they'll say evaluate, let's say x equals 1, and then y equals 2, they'll say, or negative numbers. And then they're going to give you an expression, such as x plus y. So what you do here is you substitute. Now you got to show me the substitution, not just the answer. So you're going to substitute. X is 1 plus y is 2 equals 3. Okay? So you're going to be doing some of that. Sometimes you might get one like this. X squared plus y. So you're going to substitute. 1 squared plus 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Same thing. All right? So you're going to have, that's what evaluate means. It just means to substitute into that. All right? That's one type of problem, or some of the problems that you'll have. Another one is this factor. I know this says factor completely. All right? So now go back to the chapter on factoring. It says if a polynomial cannot be factored, write prime. So some may not be. All right? I don't want to see the word prime on every single one. There may be just one here because there's only 9 problems. So there might only be one, might be none, might be 2. But you need to factor out. Remember, always thinking, is there a greatest common factor? That's the main thing. Next one is equations with identity or no solution. So check your notebooks on identity. Remember, identity is when one side mirrors the other. So in identity, once you solve the problem, you get to the very end, it looks like this. 2x plus 4 equals 4 plus 2x. That means that if I start subtracting the 2x here, my variables eliminate, and so do my 4's. So this is identity, and what it really means is that it's all real numbers. Any real number will work in here. If I was to substitute 3, negative 2, negative 1 million, it's still, both sides would equal each other. So that's why it's called identity. It's going to mirror each other no matter what. Now, no solution, a little bit different. No solution will still have the same variables. So 2x plus 4 is equal to 3 plus 2x. Now, the difference is that the coefficient, the constant number here, they're different. Even though these eliminate, and if you eliminate them, you'll see, it'll say 4 equals 3. Untrue statement. So there is no solution for this one. So be careful with identity and the no solution problems, all right? Again, there aren't that many. So I don't want to see a lot of identity just I can't solve. Yeah, you got to solve those, all right? The last part are your fractions. And I do want to make sure that we go through at least one type of each, all right? So let me grab my book to get an example of the addition problems and subtraction of fractions. Let's just give you this one. How about if we have all right. So, I'm not going to do this whole problem for you because it's one of your problems, but I'm going to get you started. All right? And X's, there should be A's here. I switched them. All right? But anyway, you're going to factor this out. So let's start. We're going to do this, this. We're going to factor this out. product of two binomials, factors of this that give us this. All right? So we know it's going to be A here, 4 here, 1 here, positive, 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 positive. All right? I'm going to move over to this one. We're just going to recopy that one. Here, now on this one, product of two binomials, you might want to use Q and C. So we have a 2 and a 1 and a 1, cross multiply, 2, we have 3, very good. So we have 2A and 1, and A and 1, positive, 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 positive. Now remember, in factoring these out, you want to make sure that you've done it correctly, so check. All right, we have 1A, 2A gives us 3A, last is 1, first, very good. Here, the difference of two perfect squares. Okay, from here, now you can go and cross simplify anything you see. Okay, so be careful with that, all right? Division, if this was division, just to clarify both of them, you're going to get the reciprocal of the second one. All right, so if this was a division problem, you do the same thing, except this would be in the denominator, this would be in the numerator's division. Now with addition, a little bit different. So let me give you one that's an addition problem or a subtraction problem. I'll give you this one, all right? Now, unlike what you were doing this week, you can't eliminate the denominators anymore when they're not equal. When it's not an equation, you cannot eliminate the denominators, all right? So you're going to have to work with a fraction no matter what. So here, let's first look at our denominators. What can we do? Well, we can factor this out. I can factor out a 4. I'm going to get x minus 2. So I don't need this anymore. I'm going to rename it to get a common denominator. Here, I'm going to factor it out. All right, I have x here, 2 and a 1. Negative, positive, be negative, negative. Negative 2x, negative 3x, positive 2. Common denominator. I need to take each factor that's used to the first power. So I'm going to need the 4. X minus 2, and it doesn't have to be common, and I'm going to need the x minus 1. Okay, now we're going to do the division. Remember, we said this divided by this. What's missing? Well, I have a 4 and then x minus 2 and the 4x minus 2. What's missing? X minus 1. I take that x minus 1, multiply it times the numerator. X minus 1 times 1 is simply x minus 1 plus. Okay, what's missing here? Well, I have these two. I'm missing a 4. 4 times x is 4x. Now, caution. This looks very tempting to do, but remember, there's a reason we can't do it, and I think some of you will remember, because we have a plus sign. So we're going to have to combine as best we can. So I'm going to take the x, and the 4x is going to give me 5x minus 1 over 4 times the x minus 2 times the x minus 1. There's nothing else I can do with that. So basically, that's what you're going from there with your addition and subtraction. You do have a subtraction one. I want to caution you, and I gave you this example. The subtraction is the same way, but with a subtraction problem, and I'm just going to put one up here so you can see. If I put x over x squared plus 1 minus x minus 1 over x, something like that. Remember, caution. When you have a minus sign and you have a binomial or a trinomial, you want to put parentheses, because whatever you are going to multiply by, divide, and whatever's left over you're going to multiply, it has to carry with that negative. So you do have one problem like that on the homework, so watch that very, very carefully on the problems. And one other one that I want to show you, this one, not very difficult. If I had a minus a plus 1 over a minus 4, something like that. See, what am I going to do here? You can't eliminate the denominator. Remember, it's not an equation. But I can put this over 1 and say, oh, well, my common denominator is simply a minus 4. A minus 4 divided by 1 is a minus 4 times a would be a times the a minus 4. I want to see this step. I don't want to see a squared minus 4a. I want to see that step. minus, remember, put your parentheses, minus. A minus 4 divided by A minus 4 is 1. 1 times this is going to be A plus 1. Now, very tempting to simplify, can't, because of the minus. So we're going to have to distribute. A squared plus 4A minus A, remember, get the opposite, minus 1 over the A minus 4. Now let's see if we can combine. Well, we can combine these two. We get A squared minus 3A minus 1 over A minus 4. Now we look, can I factor this out? Obviously not, because there are no factors of 1 that will give me 3. So that'll be our answer. So these you're going to leave in fractional form. You're not going to get rid of the fraction of that, okay? So this week's assignment is going to be a review of a lot of things, adding polynomials, subtracting, exponents. So for example, on an exponent, if I give you raised to the third power, every term in here is going to get the third power. So I have negative 3 to the third power. Well, first of all, yeah, start with a negative. It's to the third power. It's a negative, it's an odd exponent, so my answer is going to be negative because I have three terms I'm multiplying. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And negative 3 to the third power is 27. Base variables, A and B. What are we going to do with the exponents? When we have an exponent raised to another exponent, multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. So watch how you do those exponents. We have some distributing, and be careful with one like this. I'm just going to give you an example. A plus 2 quantity squared. The answer is not A squared plus 4. Remember, this means A plus 2 times A plus 2. The 4-letter word that should come in there, FOIL. So first, outer, inner, and then last. So your answer is going to be A squared plus 4A plus 4. Not this up here. So be careful when squaring that. All right? That gives you an example of what we're going to have. Remember, especially when you get to numbers 31 through 36, the fractional ones, be careful. Be careful with them, all right? Don't forget when we divide exponents too. So if I gave you, I'm just going to do this, x to the third, y to the fourth over x, y. Remember, here, 1 power raised to another power, we're going to multiply. Here, when we have 1 power divided by another power, we're going to divide. Right? No, we're going to subtract the exponents. We're dividing the problem, but we're subtracting the exponents. My base variables are x and y. 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. So be careful with that. Even though it says divide, we're not dividing the exponents, we're subtracting the exponents when we simplify them. All right, that kind of gives you an example of everything we've had that you're going to have for homework. All right, and if there are any questions, I said email me, but try first before you do any of it. All right, thank you. Have a great week.